I'm Brian Deese. I'm the Deputy Director of the Office of Management and Budget, and I want to talk to you today about the budget that the President released. Overall, the budget reflects a roadmap of the vision that the President outlined in this State of the Union: to grow the economy faster, create more jobs, to expand opportunity for all Americans, and to do these things in a fiscally responsible way. So how do we do that? Well, first, a little bit of context on the economy. Over the last several years, the economy has been growing. We've added 8.5 million private sector jobs over the last 47 months. And we are seeing some signs of durable momentum. But the problem is the economy is not growing fast enough, and there are still too many people looking for work as a consequence of the Great Recession. So the principal goal of the President's budget is to create more economic growth, create more job creation, and do that in a sustainable way. Now, the second important contextual point is where we are with respect to our deficits. And this chart here shows deficits as a share of the economy over time. And what you see here in the red is that we are currently experiencing a rapid decline in deficits. In fact, this is the fastest that deficits have declined since World War II. Gone from 9.8% of GDP in 2009 down to 4.1% in 2013. Part of what's going on there is we are experiencing a historic reduction in the rate of growth of healthcare cost. And that matters because several of our big programs in government, Medicare, Medicaid, are providing healthcare. And so if we are able to constrain the rate of growth of healthcare costs, we're able to get at this deficit challenge. And what you see over here, this is showing the annual percentage change in healthcare costs, is that in the last couple of years, healthcare costs have fallen well below their historical average. And in fact, the last 2 years, average rate of growth of healthcare costs has been the slowest that we've seen in the last 50 years. So we go back to what it looks like going forward. First place to start is what will happen without the President's budget. If you look at this blue line, this is what would happen without the President's policies. It's what we in budget speak call the baseline. And at the end of this baseline, deficits as a share of the economy would be 3.4% of GDP. The President's budget that he outlined today would put us on this green trajectory, consistently reducing deficits each year to get down to 1.6%. And that difference between 3.4% and 1.6% is the deficit reduction in the President's budget. It's driven by policies that build on the historic constraining of healthcare costs we've seen, and that would allow us to make the kind of investments that we need in infrastructure, education, and innovation to allow our economy to grow. This gets us into the difference between what we in budget world call discretionary spending and what we call mandatory spending. Mandatory spending is in programs like Medicare and Medicaid, programs that Congress doesn't reauthorize every year. That has a lot to do with healthcare costs and what we were just talking about. Discretionary spending is the money that Congress is supposed to every year approve and allocate where it goes. This is a place where we've seen some progress recently. Last year, Democrats and Republicans came together and agreed to a budget that set levels for discretionary spending. Not everybody got what they want, but it was an opportunity to provide some stability for our economy. So the President's budget tries to build on that effort while showing how he would invest in the things that he thinks would grow the economy. That's what we're calling the Opportunity, Growth, and Security Initiative. So what kind of investments am I talking about? Let me just give you a couple of examples. First, early learning. We know it's one of the highest value investments for our economy and for our children. We would add 100,000 new slots for early education for kids around the country. Basic research. It's something that government does well, and it helps lay the foundation for private sector job growth in the future. We would add 650 grants just at NIH alone to look into things like cures for Alzheimer's and cancer, other important areas that also help lay the groundwork for future private sector growth. Manufacturing. The President has a vision to try to create a national network of advanced manufacturing institutes that would help become hubs for jobs and industries of the future. With this budget, we could locate 45 of them all across the country. The President believes we need to do more to bring opportunity into some of the areas of our country that have been the most economically challenged over time. His Promise Zones initiative, which has bipartisan support, we would be able to expand this to 35 different promise zones across the country. Apprenticeships. This is a place where we know that if people get on-the-job training in an area that's relevant and where there are jobs that are open right now, it makes a big difference for their future career. We could double the number of apprenticeships in this country through this proposal. Altogether, through these and several other types of investments, we would invest $56 billion. Half of that would be for our national defense, and half of that would be in the non-defense part of the budget. We could strengthen our economic security. We could strengthen our national security as well. And here's the kicker. All of this would be fully paid for. That deficit chart that we showed before wouldn't have any impact at all, because we would close loopholes in our tax code that aren't helping our economy, and we'd make sensible changes to mandatory spending that we can afford to do over the long term. If we do that, we can achieve the deficit outcomes that we talked about earlier. We can achieve the economic outcomes that we know we need, and we can put ourselves in a better position for the future. Well, thanks for taking the time to watch. Please share this video, and if you want to learn more, go to whitehouse.gov/budget.